Welcome to r/ Am I the Jerk, where a wild Karen demands OP be her designated driver. Am I the jerk for refusing to be the designated driver for the new girl of the friend group? I, 33 male, met my friend group, Laura, 32 female, Anthony, 31 male, and Julie, 28 female, when I moved to Paris for work around 8 years ago. When we go out, here's the deal. I'm the only one with a driver's license, so I'm the designated driver. I drive and pay for the gas, parking, etc., everything related to the car, in exchange for 1 Coke per passenger. During the night, if needed, I'll go with you to retrieve something from my car, a coat, cigs, makeup, cash, etc. When it's time to leave, I'll drive everyone to their place and walk them to their door while the others wait in the car. The problem started a few weeks ago. We were already at the bar when Marie, who's 29, Anthony's new girlfriend, went to take a second or third round. I asked her to get me a Coke, and she asked for my credit card. Before I could say anything, Anthony just said, "Come on, babe, I explained to you how it works. Don't make a scene." She just replied, "Ugh," walked to the bar, and came back with just her drink. I looked at Anthony, rolled my eyes, ordered myself a Coke, and moved on. Later that night, Laura came to ask me for my car keys and told me not to come along, that all the girls were going together. Reading between the lines, I understood that it was to get feminine hygiene products. Both Laura and Julie know that I keep them in my car in case they happen to need them. A few minutes later, Marie came back, charging at me and screaming at me that I'm a weirdo. She asked why I would have feminine hygiene products in my car, saying that she was right not to buy me a Coke since I'm a weirdo, a freeloader, and other names that she called me. She created such a scene that we were all kicked out of the bar. While walking back to my car, Marie kept up her act, screaming insults and other names at me while fake crying. So I snapped and told her, "Listen to me, jerk. Enjoy your ride home because it will be your first and last one. I won't leave you here and I'll make sure you get home safe, only out of respect to your boyfriend. But after that, you can find your own way to and from the club and the bar." After that, we all got to the car and the ride home was very quiet. Fast forward to this weekend. In the group chat, we were planning a night out, the first one since the incident. Marie, who joined the group chat, asked for my address and gave me hers so I could drive her home. I just reminded her of what happened a few weeks ago, that I was serious, that I wouldn't drive her home, and that I don't want her at my place at the moment. She called me petty before leaving the group chat. Now the friend group is divided. Anthony said he's staying out of it, while Julie and Laura don't agree on whether Marie is right or not. So tell me, Reddit, am I the jerk? Not the jerk. She behaved horribly. You don't owe her a thing. I'm not sure I would have driven her home that first evening, so you're a better person than I am. My husband, who's 25, has asked to start going on regular dates with me again. I'm 26, female, and I'm a little sad. My husband, John, and I have been married for over 2 years and dated for about 3 years before that. Overall, we have a healthy relationship with good communication. When we first got married, we used to go on lots of dates. Not necessarily anything big, sometimes just coffee or a drive, but we made an effort to get out of the house together for quality time. As time passed, I took on more freelance work, keeping me busier, and he started saying that he was too tired or didn't feel like getting ready to go out after work or on his days off. Up until now, I haven't had an issue with it. He does work a lot, and I don't blame him at all. But here's where things have changed. A couple of months ago, he got really interested in digital marketing, basically selling products online. He bought an expensive course to help him learn, and he's been trying consistently to post 3 times a day to build a following on a new Instagram account. He's really putting a lot of work into this. I'm not holding my breath that it will work out for several reasons that I won't get into here, but I've never discouraged him from doing it. When he gets stressed, I encourage him, and I often tell him that I'm proud of all of his hard work. I genuinely am. I only mention that to show I'm not against him trying this out, and I haven't put him down for it ever. But this is why I've gotten a little sad. Last week, we went on a cute date after he got off work on Saturday, and I loved it. We laughed, talked, and generally had a great time like those first dates after getting married. While we were on the date, I had an idea for a cute reel that took maybe 5 minutes to record, and then I put my phone away for the rest of the time. When we got home, I created and posted the reel, adding him as a collaborator with his new digital marketing Instagram account. At his request, he's been advised to post real-life things, not just videos trying to sell. No biggie, I didn't mind. Well, since I already have a following, small but bigger than his, that reel did better than any of the other ones on his account. Great, we both thought. But now he's asked to go on a small date every Saturday. At first, I was so happy. I'd love to get back to our regular dates, but he then said it would be so that we can get content for his page. He asked if I could be a collaborator on all or most of the posts, but he wants to post them himself so he gets the credit for the engagement. I guess all the views and likes, etc. don't actually bump his page analytics since I was the one who created the post. I'm feeling hurt because for over a year, he hasn't shown much interest in taking me out. Now, all of a sudden, because he needs content and saw how I could help his view count get up, he wants to go on dates. I guess I'm just feeling used and like I'm not any kind of priority. I feel like the dates won't even count as actual dates because he's not asking to go out to spend time with me. I want to reiterate that I'm not opposed to him doing this side job, and I'm not even opposed to helping him or collaborating on posts, though I'd prefer not to do it every week. I'm actually really happy, whether or not it works out as a moneymaker, that he's putting a lot of effort into something that excites him. I haven't seen him this into anything, maybe ever. The last thing I want to do is make him feel bad or discourage him in his new endeavor. Should I just be grateful to be going out on dates again? Am I being selfish? Edit. Because so many people are getting hung up on a double standard of me making content on the date, but not wanting him to, I just want to clarify that I'm not a content creator by any means. I asked if he'd want to do this reel, and he said yes. It's not a regular thing, as I don't post much. To me, the difference here is that the whole point of these dates moving forward will be to get content, and for him, it will be work, whereas for me, it was just a fun thing for us. Maybe this doesn't make a difference, but that's just how I see it in my head. Not the jerk. So he's in an MLM, and he admitted that his wanting to go out with you is to support his cultish business rather than because he values the time. That hurts, I get it, and I'm sorry. I do want to say that these MLMs are very scripted, high pressure, and designed to make people think if they fail that they're at fault, despite the actual setup being a massive reason for the failure. They literally borrow cult tactics to prey on people. I think you should talk about your feelings, but I also think you should tread lightly because the whole system is designed for him to be defensive if you bring up reason. It's part of the gig. How about you tell him how you feel and that a date is a date and reels are for work? If he wants to go on dates just to get views, those can be 1 out of every 5 dates if you're comfortable with that. Communicate with him. Update. Many of the comments said that the best thing to do was probably just take the win and find the good in my situation. But if it's really bothering me, bring it up to him. I honestly didn't want to, but I didn't want to be upset on every date either. So I decided to give it a trial run and see how I felt after. I waited 2 weeks to make a decision and chose to go ahead and mention it to him. For those of you who think I'm some dramatic jerk whose husband could never do enough to make her happy, I told him that I was sure how I felt wasn't how he intended to come across, but then explained what I had been thinking. Sure enough, as many of you said, he was just getting 2 birds with 1 stone. I told him I was totally fine creating content on our dates, but I just didn't want to feel like it was the reason why we were out on the date. He said that he understood and would be careful about it, and that if I was bothered or wanted to have a no-content date, I should just let him know. So that's the good part. The next part is a little tougher. Per the advice of a couple of you with either digital marketing or MLM experience, I had the tough pyramid scheme talk. I told him before, during, and after this conversation that no matter what he chooses to do, I'll support him and help him. But I also explained to him a few things. I explained how the marketing was misleading, how most people lose money instead of making it, and how they will keep trying to get him to spend more money to make it work, etc. I also suggested that he track his hours of learning, content creating, and posting, so that even if he does start making sales, he can decide if the time is worth the payout. I probably mentioned other things as well, but I don't remember what. I have always been very anti-MLM and like to think that I know a lot about it. So I just tried to give him all the basic info in a kind way. After all that, I told him if he wanted to keep trying, I was for it, as long as he doesn't invest any more money before he makes some. I also told him how proud I was of all the work he's put into his side hustle so far, how I love that he was excited about it, and how he's been getting up early to work out because of it. He records parts of his workouts, but actually does a full workout or a run, and I love how it's energized him. Understandably, he was a little sad and quiet, but he understood everything and wasn't mad at all. This was all last night, and he was totally back to normal before bed, and he's continued posting today. So I guess I didn't hurt his feelings or discourage him like I thought I might. That's the whole reason I waited so long. But I guess it would have been fine all along. I'm looking forward to our weekly dates and the fact that we will be able to look back and remember them all since we will have videos from each one. I don't think this is over. MLMs don't let their victims go easily. They keep asking for more money and more commitment. So we don't always have to support our partners. Sometimes our partners are very dumb and fall for MLMs. Am I the jerk for telling my sister that it's implied she'd have to pitch in around the house if she's staying here rent-free? I, 29 female, inherited a house from my maternal grandma. It's near the city, so I can get to work, and it's big enough for me, my 2 kids, and my husband. Even with our 2 salaries, my husband and I wouldn't ever be able to afford a home like this, even though we're pretty frugal and we have savings. The housing market is tough right now, and we were extremely fortunate. My half-sister, Ella, who's 25, from my dad's side, and I are very close. She landed a new job in the city center. On her salary, she can't afford to rent a place in the city center area, and living on the outskirts and paying for a train there and back is not cost-effective. She asked me if she could move in, as this was her dream industry. Although the pay wasn't great, it was for experience, and once she had saved enough, she could get on her own feet. Ella got laid off around Christmas and had been trying really hard to find work, so I offered her the guest bedroom. She said she'd help around the house. She's been here a month and has been busy with her new job. I've asked her occasionally to help out, make dinner, or put the kids to bed if my husband and I are running late, and it's been fine so far. I asked her on her work from home day to pick up my youngest from school because the nurse said that she was sick. I couldn't reach my husband, there were major train delays, so it would take me at least an hour, and my house is a 5-minute walk from my kids' school. Ella texted me back to say that she was working, but she'd try to pick up her niece when her meeting finished. I got upset. My daughter was sick, and Ella said she would try to pick her up after her meeting. I asked her to call her boss and tell her that she needs 20 minutes to pick up her niece due to a family emergency, and then she could continue working. Ella argued that she still had to work for the rest of the day and didn't have time to babysit her niece. I told her that I expected her to help around the house when she moved in, and she said that she wasn't free labor. There's tension in the house now, and I want a second opinion. Edit. I didn't call her boss. I asked her to call her boss and ask. You offered her a room to stay in to help her with her career, and then you expect her to drop everything at your convenience? Working from home is still working. It doesn't mean she's free to do whatever you need, even if it's an emergency with your kids. Your kids are not her responsibility, and she was busy with work. Quite honestly, even if she was at home doing nothing, she's entitled to her free time. You deceived her by offering her a place to stay and never telling her she was expected to pay in labor, and what's worse, in very uncertain ways she can't plan for. If you're not happy with this situation, better tell her that she can't stay or that she needs to pay rent and give her a reasonable time to replan. And telling her to call her boss is still out of line. You could have called your own boss instead of expecting her to go out of her way at work to solve your problems. And picking your kid up is not a 5-minute walk away. It also means babysitting and caring for a sick kid until you get home. It seems like you think your job is more important than hers, and you're disguising it as chipping in. She never signed up for that, and you can't suddenly say that it was implicit or you expected that without ever telling her. Am I the jerk for making my son, who's 16, pay for his own room? I'm a single mom of 5 kids who are 16, 14, 10, 9, and 7, renting a 3-bedroom house. Up until 2 months ago, my 2 eldest boys shared a room, the 3 youngest shared, and I had the smallest room. For the last few years, my eldest complained non-stop about having to share a room with his little brother. Most of his friends' parents are wealthy, so he's constantly comparing our situation to theirs. He started working when he was 14, a few hours a week, for a little extra money. Now at 16, he works a lot, more than I would like, and this summer, he's been working basically full-time. He's not too bad with his money and actually saves some of it, but the rest goes to video games, clothes, shoes, and junk food. 2 months ago, my son and I were discussing his distaste for sharing a room with his brother, and he said he'd drop out of school now if it meant he could move out onto his own space. I told him I had looked at 4-bedroom rentals in our area, but they were just too expensive. He asked if he could pay the difference if we moved. I told him no, because during the school year, all his money would be going to rent, not his saving and spending money. That obviously wouldn't sit right with me. However, we did come up with a compromise. For $50 a month, he could have his bedroom, and my 10-year-old could move in with the 14-year-old, while I would sleep in our living room. Our couch is already a pullout. That was 2 months ago, and we already made the switch, and everyone's happy with the new setup. All the money my son is paying me is going straight into my Christmas savings, and then after Christmas, it will go into a summer trip savings. I recently told some of my friends what I was doing, and they're against it. They think I'm wrong for taking any amount of money from my kids, and a couple of them said that I should have just given him the room without making him pay for it. They make some good points, and I don't totally disagree, and it makes me feel like a jerk. My 14-year-old son is also unhappy about the arrangement. He thinks it's unfair that his older brother is getting his own room and that the middle brother should have stayed in his old room. I can see how he feels it's unfair that his older brother has the chance to pay for his own room when he and the other kids don't have the same opportunity. There's a wild difference between charging your kids rent and accepting $50 a month that's going back to the kids, so a growing teenager can have his privacy. No other kids are getting less, and no one is a jerk by any means. Not exactly an ideal solution, but tricky problems require unconventional solutions. Not the jerk. Your eldest wanted his own space, and you found a solution that works for everyone without breaking the bank. He gets privacy, you get some help with expenses, and everyone else adjusts. Sounds like a win-win, right? But the fact that your 14-year-old is feeling left out? Yeah, that's the fly in the ointment. Making your son pay a small amount for the room isn't the issue. It teaches him responsibility. But the fairness aspect with the other kids needs to be addressed. Maybe it's time for a family powwow to discuss how this arrangement works and why it was made. It might not make everyone happy, but at least they'll understand the reasoning. No jerks here. You're trying to make the best out of a tough situation. Just keep the communication open with all of your kids so no one feels like they're getting the short end of the stick, or the short end of the couch, in your case. Have you lost your husband? You don't get a survivor's pension or death benefit for your spouse? Or are they all from different fathers? Why did you decide to have so many kids without being able to provide for them with better conditions? I'm not against kids, but I always wonder why people have so many kids if they can't provide for them. Geez Louise, I always wonder why people have so many unkind and judgmental opinions when they are so lacking in basic knowledge about the realities of most of their fellow humans. There are all kinds of reasons a woman can end up being a single mom to 5 kids that are none of your business and have no bearing on the question at hand. And whatever place of privilege you are coming from, you apparently need a news flash that not everybody everywhere has survivor's benefits if their spouse passes away, and of course gets none of those things if a spouse ups and leaves, or mistreats them until they get brave enough to leave, etc. Boss told me how to organize my tools. I've been a mechanic for nearly 15 years. I'm the lead tech in my shop, and my company recently sold to a different corporation, bringing with it a new boss. A bit of history about the new boss. He's 22 and the son of one of my former bosses, so there is some suspicion of nepotism. The older boss was a ruthless jerk, which really dented my confidence as a mechanic. I may hold a grudge against the family, but I try to move on and just do my job. The new boss and I have had some minor issues over the last 3 months that he's been here, but I'm generally the type of person who can put my feelings aside if the money is good. However, today, that changed. I admit I'm not the most organized person. I have ADHD, and at 33 years old, I'm still learning to function without the medication I weaned off of at 26. My toolbox is usually cluttered, but I keep all my tools in my area or on top of my box. It's a system that works for me. This morning, when I clocked in and was about to unlock my box, the new boss approached me and said, "You will not be working on cars today until your box is organized." I replied, "My box is organized in a way that works for me." He shot back, "Not good enough for me or the company. I need to be able to find tools when I need them, and it needs to look neat and orderly for when corporate comes through." I paused and said, "So you're telling me you need to find my tools that I have purchased when you need to use them? I don't remember signing that agreement." He nodded and muttered something about insubordination and that he would be passing off all the work to the other technician until it was completed to his satisfaction. I assumed he was bluffing until 3 cars came in and all 3 tickets were handed to the other tech. I don't mind being told to clean up and would have done it his way, but his tone and the impact on my paycheck were issues. So while he was in the back doing tire inventory, I opened the top drawer of my toolbox, spread my arms, and swept everything into the drawer. I repeated this process for the second and third drawers until the top was clean. I did the same for both of my smaller carts until each one could be closed and locked. Then I clocked out for lunch. I'm currently sitting in my car in the parking lot eating lunch and browsing job listings while watching him try to open all of my drawers to use my tools. 3 more cars came in and the other techs can't handle 6 at a time. Update. I clocked back in from lunch and the boss asked to speak with me. Apparently, he called the district manager and his dad, who is a district manager in another district, for advice, and it sounds like they both told him to make it right and that he could not afford to lose me. I know how it sounds, but it's true. He told me that he just wanted to make a good impression on corporate, who would be coming through in a few weeks, and that he shouldn't have targeted me personally. He paid me for the 3 vehicles he worked on, and I let him know that I'm willing to work with him, but if he ever spoke down to me again, there would not be a do-over. I would leave. He also inquired about buying his own tools. He's not a bad guy, just a little anxious, I guess. I suppose I will stick around for a while, as the paychecks are worth it, the drive is convenient, and I have a wife and a house to pay for. Regarding some of the responses, yes, I am somewhat of a slob with my toolbox, but I average 10 to 15 cars a day, so I don't always have time or motivation to neatly organize my tools every day. He said he will be bringing his toolbox from home and will call or text to ask before borrowing my tools. Also, the empty toolbox comments, I own all 4 of my toolboxes, so they would be coming with me if I left. Thanks for the support. It seems like malicious compliance paid off for once. I've been telling my parents for years that my sister is very entitled, and they've ignored it until now. My sister, who's 15, has always been selfish ever since she was a kid. She would never share, never do anything for someone else, but would expect everyone to do everything for her. Obviously, as a kid, that was understandable, but she's never grown out of it. My parents have always dismissed this as just her personality. My sister has always been rude to me specifically. She demands that I do things for her, make her food, pay for her things, and do this, that, and the other. But if I ask for the same, she shouts at me. I don't remember the last time she's done anything for anyone out of the kindness of her heart. She just shouts. There have been times when I've been ill and bedridden due to a chronic illness, and I asked her if she could get me water, and she shouted at me. Even though I make her food and drinks multiple times a day, because if I don't, she just won't eat. She's also rude about everything. Anytime someone talks to her, she has a tone or shouts. She's so difficult to have a conversation with. I say nice things, and she's just rude to me, screams, and is awful. My parents say nothing, and if I dare talk half as badly as she does, I get told off. I've mentioned countless times the favoritism and how they see her as a perfect little angel, coddling her, rarely telling her off, and never giving her any discipline. Yet they always do with me. They've acted like I was crazy. She's so manipulative. She always plays the victim and turns my parents against me when she's in the wrong. I told my parents that one day, people are going to have enough of her in the real world, and I'm going to have to cut contact if her behavior continues. But again, they didn't want to listen. They just thought it was sisterly love and normal sister behavior, not concerning behavior. Until this week, when I went on a family reunion and my cousins, who are 23 and 12, humbled her. She was doing her normal toxic behavior, talking to them rudely and rolling her eyes at them as she does everyone. My 23-year-old cousin wasn't having it. He said, "Listen, if you keep acting like this in the real world, someone's going to get you," and that she needs to cut her attitude. My sister rudely responded with, "Yeah, sure, okay," as if he was stupid. My 12-year-old cousin added that he always feels like she judges him because she always glares at him. Obviously, my parents couldn't deny this, and it was actually a really big wake-up call. They realized her behavior isn't just towards immediate family and isn't just normal to outsiders. She would do this same behavior to people she isn't as close with, not just her parents and sister. Now my parents are telling me that I can't get her food and water and that she needs to do some things for herself. They're forcing her to be independent and have been actually disciplining her when she's toxic. She's not taking it well. She's been screaming at me even though it's not my fault and I haven't done anything. It's a bit late, but I'm glad that they're finally putting their foot down and no longer looking at her as a perfect little angel who can do no wrong. I just hope they actually stick to it. It doesn't matter if they stick to it, you stick to it. If she decides to be bratty to you, just tell her that she's old enough to handle it herself. Tell her she did it to herself, and although she doesn't realize it, this is the wake-up call that she needs because no one likes a jerk. Good luck. My parents are demanding money for their dream house. My parents are trying to build a house in their hometown. They own several properties, but they refuse to sell any of them to fund the construction. Instead, they expect my siblings and I to financially contribute because, in their words, the assets will eventually be ours through inheritance. For context, I've been happily married for 2 years, and my wife and I have a good income, significantly more than my parents. Our combined income is probably 4 to 5 times what they make. My parents don't have much in liquid cash. They have assets instead, but they're unwilling to sell any of them. So they've turned to the family for loans. We've lent them money before, and now they're asking for more. Here's the thing. They already have a lot of debt, and I know that those who can lend to them are reaching their limits. I feel conflicted about giving them more money. On one hand, I want to help them complete their dream home and see them happy. On the other hand, I doubt they'll be able to pay us back anytime soon since their income is so limited. They're retired now. My wife is strictly against giving them any more money. She believes that this situation is entirely of their choice and that by helping them financially, we're just enabling their refusal to sell one of their properties. She thinks we shouldn't have to bear the burden of their decisions. So, am I the jerk for refusing to lend them more money, even if it means they might not be able to finish their dream home? Not the jerk. But if you have the money available and your parents want you to have the other property anyway, why not buy one of their properties off them at a reasonable price? They can then build their home and you get an actual asset instead of an IOU. OP. I've already offered this solution to them, but since it still means selling something, they refused. Karen humiliates me in front of our friends by rejecting me for being under 5'10" and still expects me to help her out financially. Important background. I, 19 male, was friends with Lisa, 19 female, and we had a few other people in our friend group. I met these people in my freshman year, and I wouldn't consider them super close friends, but we all hung out at least once a week while we were in school. I began to develop feelings for Lisa and decided to ask her out over text around May of 2023. I asked her if she wanted to get dinner with me, and she responded, "Just the two of us?" I said yes, and she left me on red. I was hoping for at least a yes or a no, and I was nervous that things would be awkward the next time we all hung out together. Well, the next time we all hung out was at the library doing a group study for a class we were all in. She came a bit late, and as soon as she sat down, she turned to me and said, "OP, I would go on a date with you, but you're too short for me. Honestly, guys under 5'10" shouldn't even exist." Ouch. "I would just see you as my little brother or a friend." She started laughing, and so did the other girls. My guy friends were just quiet, and they sat there awkwardly. I was a little disappointed they didn't defend me, but oh well. For reference, I'm 5'7" and she's 5'3". I was embarrassed, and I said, "You could have said that in private." I ended up leaving early and limited my hangouts with that group. In the few times I did hang out with them, Lisa acted like there was nothing going on between us. Fast forward to August, Lisa texted the group chat asking if anyone would be able to lend her $750 for her housing deposit. She was frantic and explained that her parents were kicking her out for personal problems, and she needed to put down her housing deposit, otherwise her on-campus housing contract would be terminated and she wouldn't have a place to stay. Everyone in the group chat said they couldn't help her and they wished that they could. That's when Lisa decided to privately message me. It's no secret that my family is well off and we don't have any struggles. This came up when we were talking about financial aid and how much we were getting, etc. She asked me if she could borrow $750 from me and that she would pay me back as soon as possible. I was furious and told her no, questioning how she could ask me after she embarrassed me in front of everyone back in May. That's when she said she was getting kicked out because she likes women, and that's why she rejected me the way she did. She didn't want her friends knowing that either. She was basically begging me as she wouldn't have a place to stay if she didn't pay her housing deposit. I told her that it wasn't my problem and I promptly blocked her. This led to me getting a flurry of messages from my friends in the group who accused me of having no heart and to grow up and deal with rejection. I blocked all of them. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. If your friends are so worried about Lisa's ability to pay her housing deposit, then they should pay it. If you feel like being petty, you could always say that you're a little short this month and you can't help. Not the jerk. She didn't want to be humiliated, so she decided to humiliate you? She could have rejected you in private and explained why, and no one would have known. That way, you'd have kept a good relationship and possibly would have been willing to lend her the money. But she didn't. She decided to distract from her by making you the center of ridicule. Made her bed, now she gets to lie in it. Am I the jerk for not helping my wife with the baby after she stayed out partying all night? I, 30 male, and my wife, 29 female, have been married for 4 years now. We have a 2-month-old daughter. My wife is a stay-at-home mom, and I work as a software engineer. I work remotely, so it hasn't been that awful to split responsibilities. We decided that we would be taking turns this weekend to take time for ourselves. Yesterday, my wife went out with her friends for a girls' day out. She said she'd be back by around 8 p.m. and to not wait for her to eat dinner together. At around 8:30 p.m., I called her because she still hadn't come home. She told me her friends were planning to have a sleepover as well, and she requested me to take care of our baby tonight. Before I could reply, she hung up on me. The thing is, our daughter, Rose, is colic, so she doesn't sleep well. We usually take turns taking care of her because she cries a lot and it's very hard for one person to watch over her. I had to stay up all night yesterday with Rose. My wife came home at 4 a.m. and she was completely drunk. She just blacked out on the bed immediately after getting home. At around 8 p.m., I got us fries, nuggets, burgers, and drinks for both of us. At around 9 a.m., my wife woke up and said she felt very sick and asked me if I could take care of Rose for a few more hours so that she could eat breakfast and rest for a bit. I was exhausted at that point because I hadn't slept all night yesterday, but I agreed. I was really annoyed with her at that point though, because today was supposed to be a break for me and her getting drunk wasn't part of the plan. We both had breakfast and she went back to bed. I was scrolling Insta while waiting for my wife to wake up. At 1 p.m. she hadn't woken up yet and I ended up having to cancel my lunch plan with my friends. I was beyond angry at that point, but decided to wait for her to wake up instead of waking her up. She finally woke up at 3 p.m. I handed Rose to my wife and told her I'm going to the basement to watch a movie and take a nap. I also asked her to not disturb me until I came out on my own unless there was an emergency. I made myself a few grilled cheese sandwiches and took the strawberry shake with me to the basement. I set up an air mattress and some pillows, then I locked the door. Then I watched a few episodes of my favorite show, ended up falling asleep midway through the show, and woke up around 7 p.m. to 40 missed calls from my wife. When I went up to check on her and the baby, she said that I was very irresponsible and rude for leaving her alone with a baby for so long. I got mad and told her, at least I didn't get blackout drunk and leave you to take care of a colic baby for more than a day on your own without any sleep. She started crying and told me I was horrible for guilting her like that. Am I the jerk? Your wife is so wrong. Really stunningly wrong. First, for staying out until 4. Second, for drinking so hard she was still feeling bad at 1 p.m. And then for having the audacity to yell at you for taking a 4-hour nap. Not the jerk, and hang in there. Not the jerk. I don't get all the people judging OP. They both needed the day off. They had a deal. She broke the deal. He was very nice to her and gave her more free hours from his own time. And yet she can't deal with her own baby for an afternoon? I get babies are exhausting. It comes with the territory. Mom is a stay-at-home mom. She needs a break. But OP is exhausted too. He was taking care of his baby, who doesn't sleep well, for more than 24 hours all alone. The mom needs a reality check. She was the one who chose to get drunk when she knew full well that the next day she needed to take care of the baby. Do this next. Tap here on your screen to come see our new podcast playlist, where you'll find thousands of hours of the best stories you've ever heard. Or tap the one on the right. That episode is specifically just for you, based on other videos you've enjoyed the most.